Hey guys, before I get started, I'm going to take this time right now to wish my son a happy 9th birthday. Now, let's get ready for Break It Down with Bryan H.
Break it down.
No, baby, that's for somebody else. We're just going to keep you right where you're at right now.
It doesn't matter what you think.
The Wrestling Wrealm presents Break It Down with Bryan H.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this episode of Break It Down with Bryan H. Episode number 42. Wow, 42, as in the number of the late great Jackie Robinson, first African American baseball player who played in Major League Baseball. Now, let's get ready for this show. Man, what a week in the WWE and in New Japan, if you caught some of it. I haven't finished watching New Japan Power Struggle, but from what I saw, it was a good show so far, so I'm going to definitely finish that this week. So I won't be able to really delve into it just yet because I don't want to just half do it. But nonetheless, one of the things right off top, let's go right into our top rope.
Going up to the top rope.
It's time for this week's Top Rope segment of the week.
All right, so top rope this week, Daniel Bryan and The Miz. So I know a lot of people may not like this, but guess what? I love it. Daniel Bryan and The Miz are co-captains for the Smackdown Live Survivor Series team. And their team is as follows, if I'm not mistaken. It's Daniel Bryan, Miz, Shane McMahon, Samoa Joe, and Rey Mysterio. So that's your SmackDown Live team. As you know, AJ Styles will be defending the title. He will be doing a champion versus champion match as he will take on the new Universal Champion Brock Lesnar, a rematch from last year. But as I said, so Daniel Bryan and Miz, they are teaming up. And it's just a great way to keep this rivalry going. I've said this time and time again, this is the match I want to see. It's WrestleMania, but I do think AJ Styles will hold on to the title all the way through WrestleMania. I think his reward will be to have that WrestleMania payday for doing such a great job in carrying his title. Unless, of course, The Rock says, Vince, I want to come back and I want to wear the WWE strap and I want to face somebody that's not AJ Styles. That's the only way I see it not happening, or God forbid, an injury. But nonetheless, AJ Styles, he'll take on Brock Lesnar. I'm really looking forward to this match. We know Brock Lesnar will be on Monday Night Raw this week, but I'm interested in what he has to say. But back to Daniel Bryan and The Miz. The main event, we saw Jeff Hardy taking on Samoa Joe. Jeff Hardy was Daniel Bryan's pick, while Samoa Joe was The Miz's pick. The winner of the match would go on and be amongst the team. So the guys also picked Shane McMahon, as I noted earlier. So the reason why I said that, because so after Joe won, he got in Daniel Bryan's face, and Bryan had enough of it. You do know last week after Bryan he cleanly lost his title match, he gave AJ Styles a handshake, which Samoa Joe came in to attack both gentlemen, and Daniel Bryan didn't forget that. And after getting taunted and teased, eventually he snapped. Then they got in the ring, they started battling. That would lead to Daniel Bryan getting the yes lock on Samoa Joe. It looked like he was going to have the upper hand up until Miz came in and pulled him off, and he started beating up the Miz. And then out of nowhere, here comes Shane McMahon to break it up. Shane McMahon coming on the blind side. Daniel Bryan said, wow. He just kind of flipped him over, and Shane McMahon's looking at him like, dude, like, what are you doing? And I thought, like, wow, here we go. Daniel Bryan kind of walked away. So I can't wait to see what happens on SmackDown Live next week. See how Daniel Bryan reacts. What happens between those two? So I don't know, man. This is definitely going to be interesting. And, there's a rumor and innuendo out there that, a lot of people didn't like. I didn't get a chance to do a Crown Jewel post-show because I was out of town doing Crown Jewel. And, I didn't hate it, but I know a lot of people did, so I didn't even feel like bothering. But nonetheless, I know a lot of people hated Shane McMahon winning the Best in the World tournament. I've heard rumors that it's just the way WWE keeps poking fun at CM Punk. You know, everybody knows he calls himself the best in the world, as he took it from Chris Jericho, who called himself the best in the world. What he does. But I said this. I like Shane McMahon winning. That way you don't declare one wrestler better than all of the rest, and just sets up, you know, this whole thing. If Dolph Ziggler would have won, he's like, oh, but he's not really the best in the world. He's not better than Kenny Omega. You know, and what was I listening to? Oh, View from the Top Rope. Shout out to those guys. So, and I'll move on to the next subject, but I want to know what people think. One of the things they said on the show was Kenny Omega was one of the worst IWGP champions, and the fans were turning on him. Said, you know, and he's just like, obviously what Okada did, you know, it was historic. So I want to know, what do you guys think? Have you turned your back on Kenny Omega? Are you a Kenny Omega fan? So I will admit, I really just kind of got into New Japan, so only reign I really know is Okada's, so I don't know what to compare it to. But those who have been watching for a long time, you know, compare it to the AJ Styles and the, I'm not sure if Shinsuke Nakamura was champion, but Tanahashi, and of course Okada, you know, and the other reigns. Let me know, what do you think? Is Kenny Omega a bad IWGP champion? I was kind of wondering, like, well, why wasn't he on Power Struggle? But maybe they wanted Chris Jericho to main event that show. So let's move on. Monday Night Raw. I have a question. Is this the end for Kurt Angle? So if you watch, you would have seen that Kurt Angle took on, you know, he said he wanted to be the captain of the Raw team. Baron Corbin obviously is the captain, and he said he's not wrestling. And so far he has Braun Strowman, McIntyre, and Dolph Ziggler on his team. But Kurt Angle said, well, listen, let me wrestle. I want to fight you, Corbin, and when I beat you, I want to be the captain. Well, Baron Corbin spent his time running from Braun Strowman all night because, as you guys know, he screwed Braun of the title. And he hit him, and that just kind of set the tone, and Braun really never got himself together. But when I found out I was getting Kurt Angle versus Drew McIntyre, I was excited, man. And it's just a match on Monday Night Raw, a show that hasn't been great in the past few weeks. To get that, I was like, wow, this is going to be incredible. But the match ended with Drew McIntyre hitting an angle slam and then making Kurt Angle submit to his own ankle lock. So that makes me wonder, is this the end? Is Kurt Angle going out? Is this his way of leaving? Is he done wrestling? Only time will tell. I just thought, I was like, man, that sucked so bad for him. Just to, you know, kind of go out like that. I mean, I'm talking from a kayfabe standpoint. Make sure put that in the fine print. But I just felt like, man, it was, but nonetheless, it was a treat to watch. I definitely recommend you check it out. So, but let's move on. We got new tag team champions, folks. AOP are your new tag team champions. It kind of reminds you of when New Age Outlaws defeated Mankind at SummerSlam 98. It was a handicap match, and same thing last night, because the same scenario, the same way Kane had turned on Mankind, or kind of left Mankind hanging. Dean Ambrose turned on Seth Rollins. After he turned on Seth Rollins, we saw Rollins essentially have to defend his title against both AOP. And of course, he put on a hell of a match, as always. We know Seth Rollins, and he's really turning the corner, but AOP is just too much. They're two giants, and that's what they got the job done. They are your new Raw Tag Team Champs, and they will face Cesaro and Sheamus, also known as The Bar, at Survivor Series. That's a match I can't wait to see. So, let's move on to the women. We have Ronda Rousey taking on Becky Lynch coming up at Survivor Series. The two women on their respective shows took jabs at each other. You know, they came out there and talked about how good they were, yada, yada, yada. But the main thing that happened on SmackDown involving Becky Lynch was the call-up of Nikki Cross. Nikki Cross answered the challenge, and kind of showed Becky, look, you may be crazy, but I can be crazier. Man, and I tell you, I was sitting there, and I was really excited for this match, and it was a good match. In the end, Becky Lynch got it done, which we all knew that was going to happen, but how long, I'm excited to see Nikki Cross, don't get me wrong, but I kind of wanted to see that feud climax with her and Bianca Belair, unfortunately. I really wanted to see, like, okay, how far can this feud go? Unfortunately, we didn't get that. And then, again, who knows? Maybe we will. Maybe they'll have one more match, finally, to determine, I guess, who's better. But they had a series of great matches, and unfortunately, we probably won't get to see what happens. So, moving on, what people are talking about. Natalya as Alexa Bliss, who was named the Raw captain. I'm all over the place. Who was named the Raw captain for the women, made a match between Alexa Bliss, Natalya, Bayley, and Sasha Banks, and they would have to take on the Riot Squad. Before the match, we saw Natalya with her glasses that she said was her dad's glasses, and that was going to help her and get her pretty much hyped up for the match. Unfortunately, the match ended in no contest because while Natalya was on a roll inside the ring, Ruby Riott grabbed the glasses and teased until she really did and went through with it and ripped them. And it left Natalya in a very emotional state. And I personally think this was the creative team in WWE's way of letting Natalya grieve. I don't really, I'm not there, obviously, and thankfully I haven't lost a parent, so I can't imagine. My condolences still go out to him, because when you think about their bond, you just watch Total Divas. He's on this season. You can see how much they bonded, even like when you see with Lana, and Natalya even said on Twitter, them two had a special bond. So when you see that and you see how close she was to him, and then see how close her mother was to him, so maybe during that time she was really with her mother trying to be the rock for everybody else, that she probably didn't have time to grieve. So maybe that's what this was. Nonetheless, I think it's going to light a fire, and it's going to make things. It definitely made Ruby Riott one of the best heels as far as women. If she wasn't already, she definitely solidified herself as a top heel. Speaking of heels, we saw Nia Jax take on her good friend Ember Moon, who she defeated. And then after the match, here comes Tamina. Nia's, I'm assuming, we're going to say they're family. And, wow. Sorry, just got some interesting news. But we saw Nia Jax come out there, and Tamina came in, and she hit the Samoan drop onto Ember Moon, and Nia Jax kind of looked at her like, what are you doing? And as she had her in a submission, that allowed Nia Jax to start dropping them bows on Ember Moon, and she kept dropping more bows. So it's official, Nia Jax. It's official, Nia Jax and Tamina are one unit, and I tweeted, who can stop them? And I thought it was funny when somebody replied, creative. But nonetheless, I really am really excited about this pairing. I've been saying it for the past couple of weeks. Like, put them two together. Just put them together. It would make the most sense. They're cousins or family or something. Put them together, and they could be a dominant force. I would really love to see the entire family get together, but I don't think we'll see that anytime soon, especially with the Usos still on SmackDown. So, PWI released their now top 100 women. For those of you who've been keeping up with it, you know that it used to be called the PWI 50. So it was the 500 for men and 50 for women. But they expanded their numbers to 100, which I thought was incredible. Number one is Ronda Rousey, which, I can make an argument. I personally thought number one should have been Alexa Bliss. I understand Ronda Rousey, who she is, and I also understand that the list goes from October 1st, 2017 through September 30th, 2018. So when you look at that, I can understand Ronda Rousey being number one, especially due to the fact that she won the title at SummerSlam, she won at WrestleMania, and she won by disqualification at Money in the Bank. And so, and I think, did she have a successful title defense in there? Nonetheless, obviously she's undefeated. But when I think of, and I know they really do a lot of wins and losses, and if that's the case, I would give it to Charlotte, because Charlotte had, well, no, I guess you really can't, because she lost the match. She had to win over Natalya before last year's Survivor Series, which would lead to her having a huge win over Asuka at WrestleMania, and obviously some wins here and there. I understand why they went with her, but Alexa Bliss also had some huge wins. She was the champion at last year's Survivor Series for one. I believe she was a Raw Women's Champion, which meant she had some successful title defenses until she lost the title to Nia Jax. And then she cashed in at Money in the Bank, becoming the first ever women's Money in the Bank. So that's the reason why I personally would have went with Alexa Bliss, but she did have that huge loss to Ronda Rousey at SummerSlam. But let's just talk some other numbers. So like I said, so number one, Ronda Rousey. Number two, Alexa Bliss. Number three, Charlotte Flair. Hard to argue those. I think we will see. Becky Lynch in next year's top three, if she continues at the pace she's going now. Io Shirai, number four. She's been the ace of Stardom. Which is Japan's top. Is one of Japan's top women's wrestling promotions, and her run in the Mae Young Classic, definitely getting all the way to the finals before falling to Toni Storm. Number five, Asuka. She was hot, undefeated until WrestleMania, and then she lost the two matches to Carmella. Carmella was number 7, which was, I think that's solid for her. She had a solid title run before dropping the title to Charlotte at SummerSlam in the triple threat match with her and Becky Lynch. Number 6, Shayna Baszler. Shayna's been solid as the NXT Women's Champion. You can kind of almost guarantee like the first 3 or 4 is going to be, the WWE. The first 5 going to be either the Raw, SmackDown, or NXT champions in some sort, and definitely top 10, or at least that held the title for long. And it always wasn't that way, folks. For the longest time, it was hard for, I ain't going to say hard, but it wasn't always that a WWE woman was on top, A few years ago, at one point it was cheerleader Melissa. I'm pretty sure Mercedes Martinez was on there. Number 8, Nia Jax. Not going to really go through the entire list. Like I said, just some key numbers, and I got questions about some of them, Number 11 is Becky Lynch. Okay, that's fine. Number 21, Ember Moon. I feel like Ember should have been moved up a little bit more. She was NXT Women's Champion before losing the title to Shayna Baszler. So, 21, I'm not sure. Number 26, Nicole Savoy, the Suplex Machine. She was in last year's Mae Young Classic, but more importantly, she's the Shimmer World Champion. She has some great title defenses, and she has some victories over in Stardom. So I'm not really sure why she's so low. Brandy Rhodes, she's number 84. Now, not really sure why she's on the list. I know she was in the Women of Honor tournament, had some couple big wins at Ring of Honor, but what I really have a problem with is the fact that she's above Bianca Belair, who's at 85. Bianca Belair, obviously undefeated in NXT. I don't understand why she is so low, but next year I'm calling it she will be in the top 20. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to wrap up. No ads, no commercials, no breaks this week. Just the top rope. Not really tapping out to anything either. Could maybe tap out a couple things on this list, but nah, I ain't going to do that. Or if you're in the DMV and you're a Wizards fan, that's definitely something to tap out, as I'm watching them lose to the Mavericks 115-98 with 1:16 left in the fourth quarter. But that's basketball talk, and I'm glad I don't have to talk about it. So, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you are following the Wrestling Realm at Wrestling Realm. Make sure you are subscribed to us on YouTube, iTunes, Podbean, Google Play, Stitcher, and Spotify. Whichever you get your podcast from, make sure you subscribe and send me ratings. Send me links. Shout out to everybody who does. Shout out to my boy Dathan who listens. Shout out to my boy Antonio Banks. Shout out to my boy Terrence who always listening. I appreciate everybody. Forgive me if I didn't mention your name. Make a note, let me know, and I'll definitely shout you out next week. Shout out to my boy Kenny. My brother Hugh told me, he's like, yeah man, my man Kenny listens to your show every week, and he said he just be enjoying it. So shout out to Kenny. I appreciate you checking out the show. So, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you are voted for the Wrestling Realm and go to Wrestle Hub on Twitter and you'll see a link, or go to our links. Vote for us in the Wrestling Podcast Awards. Until the next time, folks, I'm Brian H. Waters. So long, everybody.